It's weird being on a stage and the lights only on me. That's a little better. What's up, guys?
Hey.
I'm Mr. Landon. Jesse calls me. I decided to wear my glasses tonight, so I look a lot smarter than I actually am. So
You just can't see no lie.
that's true. Who here likes dogs?
Me.
Everyone, right? Hey, everybody.
Is that Sydney Applebaum?
Sydney? What?
So, as we just established, everyone likes dogs. So I'm going to tell you about my dog, my favorite dog in the world. His name is Cooper. I mean, he's just the cutest dog I've ever done. I mean, it's pretty obvious to see that's him as a puppy because he is 16 years old now as a very tiny dog. So his life's kind of almost over. That's okay because he's amazing. So next slide. He's a normal dog. He does normal dog things. We force him to dress up. He does not like it very much, but we force him to do it anyway. And he loves playing with toys with his cousin. That's my sister's dog as well. But just like a normal dog, he gets into trouble sometimes as well. He's usually white. I don't know if you can tell. He's a white dog. In this case, we just put in new mulch and it just rained. And he went out and had a field day. And he came in and he was very happy with himself, as you can tell from this picture. And I love this picture so much because the quality is not great because he could not hold still. He was trying to move so much, but he just looks so happy and content with his filthiness and ruining his white fur, which is amazing. So I have a story about my dog that happened this past summer, and it's a time when he almost died. And it's terrifying. I hope I don't cry, but here we go. So I was back home this summer. And the point of the story that, we'll realize at the end is don't give your dog rawhide, ever. I went to the store and I wanted to treat him because dogs get super excited and happy when you give them a new toy or a treat. And so I was at like Walmart or Kroger because that's the Midwestern.
Woo!
Kroger's amazing. And I bought this rawhide bone because it was like $2. And I gave it to him and he was super happy and excited. I was like, sweet, my job is done here. He's happy and he has a new toy. That's great. Later on that night, we're hanging outside, and I noticed he was acting a little bit weirder than he normally does. He was walking around aimlessly through our backyard, just whining, and then he would start gagging and throw up just like foam. And I started freaking out. I am 22 years old at this point in my life, and I had no idea what to do. I immediately was like, Dad! Help! The dog is in trouble. I can't do anything about this. Please come help. Something is wrong with him, and I am powerless to do anything about it. And immediately, I was just like, oh no, this is it. He is 15 and a half years old. It is his time. This is how he's going to die. This is how my dog that I've had since I was 6 years old is going to go. So I immediately start crying. I break down immediately. I'm no longer a man at this point. I'm a sobbing mess. And so we don't really know what's wrong with him, but it seems like he's choking on something, but he can't get rid of it. And so, we come to find out later that it's this rawhide bone. As I say, don't give your dog rawhide because, they can swallow it and it gets stuck in their stomach because it expands when it gets wet, which like dog slobber. So he had swallowed this entire rawhide bone. And so my dad had to give him the doggy Heimlich, as it is. He's just holding him, just patting his sides down, trying to calm him down because he's sitting there whining. He doesn't know what to do because he doesn't really know what's wrong. He's a dog. And so he gives him Heimlich, and for an hour, I'm just crying, and I'm like, this is how my dog is going to go. This is how he's going to die. We're about to take him to the vet because we don't know what's happening. And then all of a sudden, he just something catches hold. Right? He's giving him the Heimlich, he's been doing it for a while, and then he just gags up a very large piece of rawhide bone that I could not think that my dog, small dog, could have swallowed. He chokes it up, and then after that, he's 100% perfectly fine. And he goes out and runs into the yard, and he's super happy. And we're like, cool, I just cried and had a mental breakdown for an hour for nothing. But I'm so glad that he's okay. So, hard transition that into super hard transition. I'll connect it later. You'll see. Don't worry. So my dog, Cooper, he was in a place where I had no idea what to do. He had no idea what to do, and he could not do it himself. My dad had to give him the Heimlich for him to get this object dislodged from inside of him and get it, puke it out. That's how it goes. And so I'm connecting that, obviously, to the Bible, as we do here. And there's a story of this woman. She was caught in adultery. And we'll see, as I go read through the story, how her experience with Jesus can be connected to my dog's experience with near death and how my dad helped him. So we're going to read through this story. Just setting up right now. Early in the morning, he came again to the temple. All the people came to him, and he sat down and began to teach them. The scribes and Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in adultery, and making her stand before all of them. And we'll pause there for just a second. Setting up, not a good start for this woman. I don't know if you guys all know what adultery means. It basically means she was with someone who was not her husband. We don't know if she has a husband, but she was with someone who was not her husband. And the Pharisees and these people in charge came and took her from that and brought her out in front of this giant crowd of people. And she is completely naked. And I don't know, the stereotypical embarrassing nightmare that people have in like TV shows and stuff is when you go to school and you don't have pants on, right? You're just like, oh shoot, I'm not wearing pants. I forgot to bring to school today. Well, this woman is having an experience with a giant crowd of people, but she is completely naked, and there's nothing that she can do about that. And imagining that is honestly terrifying to me personally. So we'll move on. The next part says, they said to him, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the very act of committing adultery. Now, the law of Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now, what do you say?" They said this to test him, so that they might have some charge to bring against him. So these men, Pharisees that have brought her to Jesus, they don't care about her. They're using her, and they probably set this whole thing up to get to Jesus. But this woman is caught in the middle of it, and she has to face the consequences, because back in that time, the consequence for committing adultery as a woman is to be stoned. And stoned is, exactly what it sounds like, is you stand there as a giant crowd of people throw rocks at you until basically you die. It's pretty much a death sentence. So it gets worse for this woman. It started off bad, and now there's a chance, pretty good chance, usually, that she's going to be stoned around this crowd of people and probably die. And so they asked Jesus, "What do you say?" They're trying to catch him. If Jesus were to say, "No, don't stone her," they would have something to bring against Jesus, bring the law, like, "Oh, he is going against the law, so we need to arrest him now." But if he tells them, "Yes, stone her," then they would question him and his authority. It gets complicated from there. So we'll see what Jesus does in response to this question. Jesus bent down to the ground and wrote his finger on the ground. When they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, "Let anyone among you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." And once again, he bent down and wrote on the ground. Now, it's something that you can pass by very quick if you're just reading this by yourself, that he bent down and wrote in the sand with his finger. Now, it doesn't say what he wrote in the sand with his finger, but I don't think it matters in this case. So if you are thinking about this from the woman's perspective, this entire crowd of people, they're all seemingly looking at you, right? If you were this woman, they're looking at you, and you're naked and exposed, and they all know that you've done something wrong, and you know you've done something wrong, and it's only getting worse from here. But Jesus, instead of immediately answering or turning the attention back to her, Jesus takes all the attention onto himself, and he bends down and begins to write in the sand. Because, just imagine Jesus, who's a pretty important guy. He begins to write down in the sand. There's a giant crowd. You would probably want to see what he's writing if you were there. And so that draws your attention to Jesus and off of this woman that is standing there. And I believe that is Jesus' intent with this. And so in the next part, after that, when they heard it, they went away, one by one, beginning with the elders. And Jesus was left alone with the women standing before him. Jesus straightened up and said to her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" She said, "No one, sir." And Jesus said, "Neither do I condemn you. Go your way, and from now on, do not sin again." So initially, Jesus' response to these Pharisees asking him, "Jesus, what do we do with this woman? We're supposed to stone her. We're supposed to kill her. That's what the law says. What do you say?" He does not answer right away, and he takes all the attention off of this woman who is embarrassed and exposed and takes it onto himself. And then, in final response to this question, he says, "Let he who is without sin throw the first stone." pretty obvious answer. Jesus is the only one there who's without sin. He's the only human that has ever lived that is without sin. And so he's the only one, as he says with his own words, he's the only one that has the right, the authority to judge those who have messed up. He's the only one where if Jesus were to throw a stone at her when everyone else is left, he would be completely justified. Because this woman has done wrong, and Jesus is without sin, and that is righteous justice. But notice that Jesus doesn't do that. After taking the attention onto himself and being alone with this woman, the entire crowd has left. So this woman, still naked, still probably in public, but now it's just her and Jesus. There's not a bunch of sets of eyes looking at her anymore, right? So notice what Jesus says to her. He says, "Neither do I condemn you." So no one else condemned her. Because they all know, starting with the elders, because there usually was, left because they know that they have sinned. They know that every day they themselves do wrong and sin. They have no right to judge this woman for what she has done. But Jesus, who has the right to do so, he says, "Neither do I condemn you." Now this whole time I'm talking about how this woman, we're all talking about this woman. Well, imagine yourself as this woman. Not only imagine it, but you make the connection that we are this woman. We are this woman. We are Cooper. We are my dog. All of us every day make mistakes, do wrong, inherently, and we are supposed to suffer the consequences. In Cooper's case, he didn't really do anything wrong, but he was in a situation where the consequences for him were death. And for this woman, she committed adultery, and the consequences for that were death. And the same thing goes for us, because we are the same as this woman. The mistakes that we make every day, how we turn away from God, we sin. The consequence for that is death. But Jesus, in the same way that he says to this woman, "Neither do I condemn you," he says it to each and every one of us every single day. He says, I don't know, random name, person, Taylor, Landon, Tyler, Jesse. He says, "Neither do I condemn you." And I have the right to, but I don't. And that is called grace and compassion for what he has for us. Jesus shows his compassion initially by taking all the attention off of this woman and putting it onto himself. And he shows grace to this woman by letting her off the hook for the wrong things that she has done. Grace, similar to mercy, but it's greater than mercy. Because mercy is just getting off the hook for something you've done wrong. Grace is receiving a reward for something that you did not gain, even though you've done wrong. And so Jesus says, "Neither do I condemn you. Go on your way, and from now on, do not sin again." So we are this woman, right? We have sinned, we have done wrong, and Jesus has forgiven us every single day of our lives. He does not condemn us for the wrong things that we do. So don't ever think that you're not good enough for Jesus, because Jesus doesn't care. Jesus does not condemn you for any of the wrong things that you do. And just like he calls this woman to do, he calls each one of us to go on with our lives and do not sin again. And that's obviously us being imperfect people. That's probably not going to happen, because I sin every single day, and so do each and every one of you. But it's accepting that invitation to go on with Jesus and accepting his grace that he has already given to us anyway. Accepting that and moving along with Jesus. That is the next step that needs to be taken, because Jesus has shown all of us, just like he has shown this woman, the grace and compassion that he has for each and every one of us. And similar to how she was saved by Jesus, Cooper was saved by my dad, both from death. Jesus saves all of us from that. And so knowing that, a step can be taken by you. You just have to accept Jesus' grace and compassion for you, and knowing that, being more confident in his strength that he has in you. So that's all I've got. We're going to sing a quick song of response to this message, and then I'm going to pray, and then we'll be done.